Every time someone doubts former Huskies point guard Isaiah Thomas, he makes him look silly. So what was Celtics general manager Danny Ainge thinking when he traded him to Cleveland at 18? He was a three-star recruit from Tacoma with more than 90 players ranked ahead of him. 3 years later, he was first-team All-Pac-10 and an honorable mention All-American. At 22, he was the last pick of the NBA draft and third choice of the Sacramento Kings. 3 years later, he was posting more than 20 points and 6 assists per game. At 25, he was dealt to Phoenix for a trade exception, and then shipped to Boston for a draft pick. 2 years later, he was averaging nearly 29 points while leading the NBA in fourth-quarter scoring. Every time someone doubts former Huskies point guard Isaiah Thomas, he makes him look silly. So what was Celtics general manager Danny Ainge thinking Tuesday? Ainge traded Thomas, Jay Crowder, and a likely top 3 draft pick to Cleveland for Kyrie Irving. He dealt a man with the 7th best player efficiency rating in the NBA for a guy with the 23rd best. Sure, there are factors such as age and health that made Irving attractive to the 17-time league champs. But come on, Danny. Have you learned nothing from the past? There wasn't anything fluky about the season Thomas had last year. The franchisee recorded 43 consecutive games with at least 20 points, the true shooting percentage of .625, the 28.9 points and 5.9 assists. Those weren't aberrations, those were the results of Isaiah's maturation. The NBA has produced plenty of players whose ability to wow crowds overshadow their ability to win games. Allen Iverson had years like this, as did Pete Maravich and Vince Carter. But despite the 28-year-old Thomas being the most entertaining player to wear a Celtics jersey in years, he has developed into one of the NBA's most dominant defensive forces. You want traditional stats? Thomas' scoring average last year was behind only Russell Westbrook 31.6 ppg and James Harden 29.1, but Isaiah took 468 fewer shots than Westbrook and 60 fewer than Harden. He also shot the 5th most free throws in the league, remarkable for a dude standing 5'9", and made 90.9% of them. You want advanced stats? How about offensive win shares? That's the number used to project how many wins a player's offense adds to his team's total. Well, Thomas had 10.9 offensive win shares last season, the second most in the league. Irving's 7.4 was 17th. In Boston's Brad Stevens, Thomas finally got an NBA coach who centered the offense around him despite his diminutive frame. The result was Isaiah leading the Celtics 5,329 to the top seed in the Eastern Conference despite being the lone All-Star. Night after night, opponents knew Thomas would be the focal point of the offense, but still couldn't stop him. Game after game, foes knew Isaiah would be in isolation in the fourth quarter, but still couldn't slow him down. Still, in a league full of redwoods, it has to be hard for execs to think a man standing 69 inches can be the front man for a championship-caliber team. So the Celtics traded the two-time All-Star. Mistake. Perhaps Ainge was intrigued that Irving was 3 years younger than Thomas, and that he could sign him to a long-term deal when his contract is up in 2 years. But that fact that he included the Nets draft pick suggests the team is in win-now mode, and if you want to win now, you keep Isaiah. People see what Irving has done in the finals over the past 2 years and think he is better than Thomas. He isn't. The statistics suggest Isaiah is the more efficient player, and that's without playing with LeBron James, who opens the floor for everyone. But what about defense, you might ask? Yeah, Thomas is a liability on that end of the floor, but Kyrie might be one of the few point guards in the NBA who's worse. According to BasketballReference.com, Thomas was more productive than Irving on D last year. Boston isn't getting an upgrade there. The only other factor would be health, and given the hip injury Isaiah suffered in the playoffs last season, that's a legitimate concern. But even if he won't be ready for training camp, as some have predicted, the Cavs only need Thomas to be 100% when the playoffs roll around. Sorry, but Cleveland won this trade. Thomas, Crowder and an unprotected first-round pick for Irving, way too much. Like just about everybody before him, Ainge slept on Isaiah Thomas. And history has proved that when you sleep on Isaiah, he gives you nightmares.